Hello, I am Scott Herbst, founder and president of Six Flex Training and Consulting, and you are listening to or watching The Flex. This is a show where we have conversations with people who are expressing leadership with the intention that it give you access to expressing yours. I'm really excited today to have Gabrielle Centra Taylor with me. Gabrielle is the Chief Clinical Officer of Rainbow ABA, and they are an ABA agency. They provide in-home and clinic-based services. She'll share more about the specifics of that as we go. And they do that in New Jersey and Texas. And as usual, I'm going to keep my introduction short so you can hear more of Gabrielle's story from the source. Gabrielle, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Can't wait to chat.
So I always have people start with, going back as far as you want to, tell a little story of how you got where you are. I'd love to hear what had you get into this field, and then that pathway towards, chief clinical officer of a multi-state agency.
I can honestly say I had zero intentions of ever doing this professionally.
What was your intention?
To be, I think, originally a medical doctor. Went in as a molecular bio major in college and was like, I'm gonna cure cancer. That's what I'm gonna do with my life. And then I got to my first chemistry class and was like, nope, can't do chemistry. So there's that goal. And I had a professor that I was taking for electives. And after class, he was like, I can't wait to see you next semester. It was a psych class. He's like, I can't wait to see you next semester for, the next step up. I was like, there is no step up. This is my elective. And he looked at me and he said, you might want to change your major. And I kind of had this epiphany moment and was like, all right, well, maybe I should reevaluate kind of like what I'm doing here. And I'm 18. I don't know what life is yet. I have no idea what to do. And you're given this big weight on here, make a decision for the rest of your life. Fast forward, senior year in college, I'm angry in the hallway and I'm complaining and saying, this is ridiculous. I got a bachelor's in psychology. I can't even do anything with it. It's like, what am I going to even get my master's in at this point? And I see a flyer on the wall for a school psychology position. And I'm like, what is that? They probably don't even make money. Like it's what, how could you be a psychologist with just a master's? And a head pops out of the office. This beautiful, beautiful soul. And she was like, hi, I'm the director of the school psychology program here at Montclair State. Would you like to talk about the program? I was flushed. I was embarrassed. I could not apologize enough. I said, I'm in a bad headspace. I said, I'm having a midlife crisis. I don't know what this is, but I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Long story short, in that capacity, we sat down. I was enrolled in the grad program. There was a dual program for clinical and school psychology. And I created kind of a village around me at that point. And this village would I'd have different internships, different, positions that I'd see what kind of worked for me. And I finally became a school psychologist. And 3 months in, I cried and said, there's no way I can do this the rest of my life.
Why not?
When I first thought of clinical and school psychology, I thought, I'm going to be with those babies. I'm going to be with the littles, or I'm going to be in the high school. And everything I've ever done, and you'll hear more about this with Rainbow, is very, very driven with inner city and urban communities. I'm huge on providing equity across care and ensuring that all babies have what they need, regardless of what their funder is or their district has to offer. And I'm sitting in Irvington, New Jersey, a beautiful school district that has come so far. And I'm sitting and I'm like, this is just paperwork. I'm not able to be with the kids the way I need to. I get counseling sessions maybe once a week. I said, I need to make more of an impact. And one day after hours, very late at the school, I'm looking up interventions for a teacher that really struggled with a kiddo in her class. And the learning consultant comes in and looks at me and she's like, why are you still here? I said, well, I'm helping her try and find like maybe a token economy or something that could help this kiddo in her room. She's like, school psychologists don't do that. Why don't you just be a BCBA? No idea what that was. Within 3 more months, I was already enrolled in St. Joe's for my post-grad cert and fell in love with ABA. this new concept of making direct change. And I was amazed at what the science could do. So leaning into it, I'm now practicing after I become a school BCBA. I'm now practicing in another very, very, very large inner city in New Jersey, and I'm a school psychologist and BCBA. If you know anything at all about Capricorns, we're stubborn. And I was looking at the red tape within the school districts, and I knew it wasn't for me because I'm loud and I have ideas and I want to make positive impact on who we're working with. But there's so many tiers in school districts and boundaries that are set from so long ago that you cannot cross them no matter what you do. So I stepped back and said, all right, well, maybe I should try to change route here. Like maybe I should step away from schools and see what else is out there. My supervisor from when I was collecting hours for my BCBA gave me an unbelievable opportunity to start a department with him within his agency. And that's where I really learned everything. The right way to do things, the wrong way to do things, how to create procedures that I didn't even know we needed. Um, fell on my face a lot. I fell on my face so much. And this particular position, I always say my imposter syndrome starts from I am probably the only BCBA in the world that has never administered the BB map. I have never, and I felt like a fraud for so long because I was trained in severe and challenging behavior. The initial population that I worked with was 21 and over, and it was some of the most severe cases in the state of New Jersey. So we were going in and we were troubleshooting when things were already really deep in the mud. Um, I was conducting, and at least probably I would say close to 10 FBAs a week, and seeing how many people we can help and where can we tag team anybody in to make a change. And it got to a point where after 2 years there, and we really were doing good work, I was kind of I hit another kind of professional crisis. Like, can I do this forever?
Yeah.
I I was putting 35-year-old men in holds. And I'm ashamed of part of that part of me, right? Like that is not the clinician I am today, 7 years later as a BCBA, but year one, I was. That's who I was. It was extinction or bust. It was, how do we replace it? But how do we have to put it on extinction? And if it gets too bad, we put in holds. And it's just a different model than what was sitting right with me. And I sat and I was like, I can't do this the rest of my life. And I wanted to have a family. So all of that kind of came to a head, and then COVID hit and reevaluated all of the things, just like all of the things professionally that I wanted. And I saw an ad for Rainbow. And I am a member of the LGBT community. I found that to be a little bit of a sign. I was like, wait, is this is this my sign? Like I need to try something else or look at somewhere else. And I had a conversation with our founder and CEO and was just blown away. Not because it was this well-established company at all. There were 10 clients. And
Mhm.
he was like, hey, it started off was, I just kind of need a BCB to kind of help get us started. And after a 45-minute conversation, he's like, I changed my mind. Do you want to lead all the things? And I just, I froze and said, can I think about it? And within a week, I signed the offer letter. Rainbow is we've turned it into a forever home for a lot of people. And to date, I always say the coolest thing I've ever done is have my daughter because she's the coolest person in the world. The second coolest thing I've done is Rainbow and what we've created there.
Yeah. When you say forever home, what do you mean? Like people are like, this is where I'm going to work. Yeah.
We have we've been in business really functioning for about 5 years now. And within those
Yeah.
5 years, I have had, I think, about 15 BCBAs turnover, and we have 54 on staff right now. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Great.
We have BCBAs that even when they're like, I have a family, I want to go into the school based, they still stay part-time. They love our mission. They love what we do. They love the resources and the tools that we give them to make actual impact. Because I think if you look at the dynamics, the cultural dynamics of Rainbow, we all have one thing very much in common is we all are very stubborn with the change we want to make. We
Hmm.
want direct impact for our families. And that's kind of, we've stayed really, really clear with that mission.
Yeah. Um, got a lot of questions I could ask. I'm going to think
Do
I
it.
to ask you
Do
about the
it.
last thing you said. Um,
Yeah.
is that I want to hear about the difference that has made, and that being really crystal clear and stubborn about the mission we're on.
Mm,
And because that's something I hear from whether it's founders or clinical officers, that um I don't necessarily hear it directly, but what I'll hear is that there isn't a clarity of mission.
mm,
Or if um if there is a clarity of mission, that often what gets dropped out is the practice of really connecting to it.
absolutely.
Um, so I guess I'm interested in a couple things. Like, one, because you guys have grown. You said how many years?
So we've been in practice for 5 years. We started with 10 kiddos and we have about
Yeah. Okay.
125 now.
Yeah. So that's pretty big growth,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's companies out there that started with like 20 clients and like 5 years later now have 30, right? So that's pretty remarkable growth in a fairly short amount of time.
Mhm.
And so that I'm curious how you've had that mission translate just really present, and present in a way that people are like, no, this is what we're doing, and then doing it right.
Absolutely. And the 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 first thing and where it starts with is who's supporting us to do it. There's a really big conversation in the field right now of not working for companies that are BCBA owned, right? And our co-founders are not BCBAs.
Hmm.
What they are, though, are parents that have their own intentions of wanting to provide quality care and
Hmm.
have the ability to say, let us do the messy things like the insurance pieces and the scheduling and the payroll and all of the things that need to be done in the background to make this work. And you, as in along with my chief innovation officer, who is my whole entire rest of my soul professionally, I couldn't do it without her. The two of us, they gifted us the ability to make every single clinical decision that is made in the company. So when we find value in something that we know is going to directly impact not just our BCBAs, but disseminate all the way down to our BTs, our RBTs that they can then empower their families with, we know we're on the right track. When it's tangible, it's easy, it's simplistic to disseminate. These are the pieces that have kind of created just more accessibility across the company. And people don't like, they like it. They want more tools. They want easier access. They don't want to spend 20 minutes after a session writing a session note. They want
Yeah.
things that they can actually give back their time and make
Mm.
meaningful change within their family. So that's what we're doing. Um, Something that's so simple of sending out an employee satisfaction survey twice a year. We
Hmm.
sit and we analyze every single response. We take all the open-ended feedback and we graph it as to how many people feel this way versus this way. And then we put a plan of action into place 2 times a year at least. Because it's not, so they've given us full autonomy to make the clinical decisions, but then we use the voices of the entire company to make the clinical decisions. It's not us. Nothing comes directly from us anymore. We use all of the voices in the company.
Yeah. So you've set up mechanisms to actually hear what people need, and and then actually respond to that, take it very seriously. Another thing I heard is that there's a real commitment to making it easier for people to make the difference that they want to make. And I think that's a little distinct from like making someone's life easier, or just making their job easier. There's like actually a real attention towards, okay, what is the difference you want to make, and how do we make that easier?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's we're looking at what's preventing the change. So the intentions are beautiful, right? We want to keep that light and that's the driving force to keep,
Yeah.
especially when the field is so high in burnout.
Yeah.
So the intention is noted, but it's just as important to notice what's preventing the intention from coming to life.
Yeah.
Whatever barrier that is, I feel like it's my responsibility to navigate that and
Yeah.
remove the barrier so you do have the room to do what you feel is clinically relevant and
Yeah.
most evidence-based treatment for those kiddos. Um, because again, when you're looking at something systemic, like I can't expect them to make that change if we're all the way at the top and we're a mess. Like, no, we need things clear. We need systems. We need great organization. And it has to be done with compassion. There's so much of what I think there's, I love, maybe I'm a little bit too progressive. I love how many ABA companies there are. I don't find anybody in competition with us or anything. I'm like, yes, the more of us, the better, because our families are benefiting from the care, right? I just look at Rainbow as something that separates us, that we're leaning into fully, is compassionate care, leading with empathy, ensuring that it's humanistic. Um, I think so often our field is looked at as cold and analytical, which we want to be analytical. We want the science, right? But we can do that with compassion and intention. We can lead with intention and know that our target audience are families that feel fragile, let down, uh, lacking resources, support, understanding. So if I can look at parent barriers on what they need, which is even a part of our assessment process is looking at social significance scales for our family. What's relevant to them? Because I can pull the most evidence-based research article for this particular treatment, and it still won't hit home if the family's not ready to receive it. So it's kind of playing this like swan song, almost like this waltz with the family dynamics and what their needs are, the RBT and that direct care and what they need to keep going, and then our BCBA's not burning out and feeling like I have too many cases or too many expectations. It's making all of these pieces work together so that it kind of has some fluidity to it. um and I think really a lot of the pieces of just like trial and error, doing it the wrong way at first and finding the right way from that. Like I'm the first person to say I have fallen on my face 100 times making the right in order to get to the right decision.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that.
Yeah,
And before I do, I want to underline something I heard and see if it is true for you. Um, you talked about focusing on the intention and then removing the barriers to that. And I think that is really powerful. What I see, where I see people get bogged down and leaders get dissatisfied is that like people complain.
of course.
We do, right? Um,
Absolutely.
like people tell me I can't complain, and I'm like, I could really teach you because
I do a lot.
great at it.
Mastered the art.
So if it's a skills deficit, just let me know. I'm
Teach
like,
you everything I
yeah.
know. Not a problem.
Um, but people complain, um, and then they don't know what to do. And like they'll address the complaints and then people still complain.
Mm,
And but what I'm hearing from you is that there's a real focus on, well, what is it that we're really committed to? What are we up to? What is our intention? And whether you're aware of it or not, the power I see in that is that when you're focused on that, like it's very easy to see, or it gets easier to see what's in the way, and then focus on the things that really matter.
absolutely.
Um,
And understanding the environment that the complaint is coming from.
more about that.
We notice a trend a little bit, right? When things are good, things are good. When
Mhm.
one thing goes bad, here's everything that's been going wrong.
Mm.
Sometimes it just takes that one shift in spontaneous recovery or a slight regression in some way to be like, by the way, this isn't working. I really don't like this dynamic. Maybe my technician is satiated with the environment, so we need a switch, right? That's where we kind of do a little bit of like a barriers assessment as the BCBAs in the company and say, okay, so everything's hitting the fan right now. Let's just narrow it down and just operationally define each thing. And how do I address it? Things can feel really big when they're bad, right? If we take a step back though, and we start looking at it from a just clear, objective eyes, you're able to kind of work through it a little bit more. I'm also a big believer in, again, that's a lot of reactive kind of, like, that's a strong reactive approach. We're here
Yeah.
in the preventative piece. Like, I won't even give a BCBA a case if they're uncomfortable with it. Like, we will give you the folder. Here's all the intake information. Here's the intensity skills. Is this within your scope of practice? Is this a case you feel comfortable with? Are the hours something that you're going to burn out with? Or do you think this is something that's manageable within your current schedule? I'm going to beat you to the punch. I'm going to give you all of the things right up front for you to make the decision. And then in 6 months, if you feel like you made a mistake and it wasn't a good fit, I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to say, well, you got to stay on until I find somebody. No, I've tapped in and done the supervision and taken over cases in the interim before we find somebody. I'm not in the business of making your life miserable. Rainbow's supposed to be a community. Rainbow's supposed to be a village for everybody.
Yeah.
So if you're tapping out, I tell my team all the time, please let me know before you get there. So I can prevent the burnout with you. I can give you the tools. I can give you mentorship, or if you're just done with the case, that we can be done. That's okay. It's okay to step back and say, this is too much for me. And the same goes for our technicians. So we're not forcing anybody into these roles. We're constantly, our chief operations officer, I don't actually know how she does it because she just schedules and rotates all day, all day. It's like magic what she does. And it's because we're letting people walk in and saying, I'm uncomfortable, I need a change. I can't do this anymore, I'm burning out. I need a mental health day. That's not a bad word to us. Needing to step back for your mental health and your body and your own homeostasis, like, that's a good thing to be cognizant of. Um, and I think just really simply just start treating people like humans. They're your employees, but they're humans behind it. And everything driving their professional career is what's going on personally. My school psychologist is showing, but like, I strongly believe, like, I say the bad words like feelings. I do. I acknowledge them so deeply because if you're not looking at them with your company and with your teams, then you're going to drop the ball and they're not going to trust you. You're going to be a robot.
Yeah. Feelings isn't a bad word to me.
Okay.
Uh, for me, it's like we have them,
Mhm.
whether my feelings are real, they're real to me.
Absolutely.
And
Because
if
so
we're not like acknowledging them and dealing with them, they're gonna run the show somehow, right?
absolutely. I think my 2-year-old has taught me that
Um,
recently. You know what I mean? Like, the logic behind the feelings that aren't there, but they're feelings regardless. And it's my job to sit in as the adult in the room, right? And say, okay, well, how do we navigate this? That's what I love about the science too. It can be applied everywhere to our families, to our team. I love OBM. I want to continue my professional journey in it. And it has truly awakened a lot of my practice and perspective on it.
yeah. And OBM, if you're watching and don't know what that means, that's organizational behavior management. It's applying behavioral principles to teams and organizations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You talked about a little off camera, and you alluded to it here, that you have learned a lot by failing. Oh, before we move on,
Yeah.
so we're changing gears a little bit, but I would say if we're like about halfway into our conversation, I would say the big theme of the first half has been support
Mm.
and like supporting people to make the difference that they want, supporting people in taking on new accountabilities and responsibilities, and looking with people where they are and supporting them towards that mission. um, I want to change gears a little bit because you
Sure.
did mention that you have learned a lot through failure,
Yes.
and I really appreciated you saying that because I know that one thing I've felt as I've stepped into new leadership roles is just this sense of that I should have it handled. Like, I'm
Yeah.
in the chair now, I should have it handled. And that has never been my experience. And sometimes it has been a barrier to me trying new things, taking new actions, working with my team. So I'd love to hear some about what you've learned through uh, making mistakes.
I'm laughing right now because it was such a pivotal moment. I don't even think this person, if they happen to like hear this, would even think twice about this moment. But at my old agency, when I was very much like I can do it all, and I can do it by myself, and I can create the policies, and I can do all the cases, and I can train the teams all on my own, and I'm totally fine. One day I had behavior. So with DDD population, it's like a multi-tiered kind of approach. So you can have a behaviorist work under a BCBA and kind of push the treatment through, which comes with pros and cons in itself. And this behaviorist that worked on the team came to me one day and said, I'm really struggling with this case. I'm in the middle of writing reports. I'm doing all the things. I'm doing a lot of checks and balances on my end. She's like, and it's really overwhelming me and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, oh, okay, here. And I went on my computer and I found an article that was like very relevant to the situation that she brought to my attention. I printed it and I said, here, read this and let me know any feedback you have or if this answers any of your questions. She left my office. I didn't think anything of it. I gave her resources. I gave her the tools that she needed to rectify the situation. And 2 days later, I got called into the office and we're having a little bit of a mediation. And she expresses to me, she's like, you were so cold and removed. I was sitting there nearly in tears crying to you about a case that was really troubling me. And you handed me paperwork. You handed me an activity, homework, pretty much, instead of sitting and telling me I can do this and empowering me and giving me the emotional support I needed. You literally just printed a piece of paper and handed it to me, and I was embarrassed. Um, and I'm the type of learner where that actually works for me. If you hand me something like a resource and say the answer is definitely in here, I go and I highlight and do my little anecdotal notes and all the things. And that helps me because it's tangible. That wasn't her professional love language.
Yeah.
And I did a disservice to her by not establishing what her professional love language was. So now I've learned through even just falling on my face with that, I am more readily available. I ask every single person in the company that we oversee as BCBA levels, and our BCBAs ask our technicians, what is your preference for feedback? When you want support, what does support look like for you? This is part of our actual onboarding process at this point, where
I love that.
we're giving you the opportunity to tell us exactly what you need. Do you want feedback in the moment? Do you want me to write it up in an email? Or does that scare you because you think it's too formal? Give me a clear map of how to best support you before anything goes wrong. And then I can get ahead of all of it. So paired with learning that everybody has a different need professionally, it's not just a one size fits all. That was a huge game changer to me. And the second biggest point was, again, I mentioned earlier, I was the BCBA that with Handle with Care and CPI and was doing all of the holds that were in high stress situations. And we have completely, and in 5 years, can comfortably say we've never put a child in a hold at Rainbow. We don't even train our staff on doing any vertical or horizontal holds. We have a phenomenal PCM instructor in-house. He's our crisis care coordinator, and he's part of the backbone of the company. He provides on the ground
PCM
support.
is
I'm sorry, what?
PCM is
PCM is pretty much like a handle with care type of crisis training,
yeah.
but it's created by BCBAs and it's tiered. So if a kiddo, if a staff was working with a child that has like they're pulling your hair, right? Or they're biting you, I wouldn't train you on a vertical or horizontal hold. I might just train you on bite and hair pull releases.
Yeah.
So it's operationally appropriate, it's specific to that learner, and it's making sure people have the tools they need in the moment rather than all of these tools and you potentially mishandle them, which is what I did. When I was practicing Handle with Care, I used a horizontal hold on somebody and got a concussion because I shouldn't have used that hold and
Hmm.
wasn't well trained on using it in a high stress situation because outside of that training room it is a very different environment. So when I came to Rainbow and I worked with our chief innovation officer, we both agreed that that wouldn't be our model and we wouldn't be compliance driven either. So now every single thing that we do is rooted in assent and assent withdrawal practices, amplifying the voices of our kiddos, because I find it to be very ironic in the field that we preach self-advocacy for our kiddos and then force compliance on them in the same breath. If they're actively telling us, I'm not comfortable with this, and we're saying, it doesn't matter, go do it, we're suffocating their voices. We're putting them on the bottom tier for importance. So we're very, very big on, oh, it looks like you don't want to do that right now. Let me pivot as the professional. Let me pivot as the adult in the room and find something that does work for you. And that has been a huge, huge shift in our clinical outcomes. Massive. Best.
How's it been for your team?
It's, we're unlearning still.
Mm-hmm.
We're unlearning. We have people come from other clinics that come into ours and they're like, what do you mean I'm just letting them walk away? This is uncomfortable. I feel like I'm not working. I'm not doing the right thing. And we have to sit and talk to them about reframing and what the science behind ascent withdrawal is and how there's a multi-tiered approach to it. And it's, is there satiation? Is there not enough deprivation? Is there something in the environment that's triggering or the lights buzzing? And they
Yeah.
can't do this right now, right? When we're forcing compliance and don't look at the outside variables, we could be causing more harm than good. And that's sometimes where ABA gets a bad rap.
Yeah. I'm interested in that from a leadership perspective. I mean, one thing I'm hearing is, and this goes back to what you were saying earlier, is there's like a lot of, you talked earlier about being responsive to employee needs, and now it's being responsive to client needs.
Absolutely.
And I can see that, and I've felt that pull. I've done, I've mostly done organizational work, but I've done some consultation and work with kids with autism, and that was one of the, in one of the cases I had, I remember this kid where it's like the approach was, no, we are going to make you comply, and uh, and he hated it, and frankly, I hated it too.
It just doesn't
You
make you
know,
feel
I
good.
I, I just like I don't like how I'm being with this kid. And at the same time, coming from that training where it's like, no, you've got to. There was this like this pull of like guilt about how I feel from the kid towards the kid, but also guilt about how I feel this way.
This
So it is
ethical
like a
role dilemma.
mindset
Yeah.
shift change,
Yeah.
right? And that's something leaders deal with, is you bring someone in who comes from another organization and they're like I see this with uh sales managers.
Hmm.
They come in and I'm like, I got these new ideas and it's going to be all different, and like their team like is like, we are going to destroy you,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because we are
Hmm.
not going to change. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, as a leader, what it takes to bring people into a culture and create buy-in
Absolutely.
or
It
new ways of doing things.
immediately it starts. So in our interview process, we're screening for comfort and awareness of ascent withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on their response, that's kind of where it it could turn. Um,
Great. So it
there
starts with hiring.
it just starts right away, just being really transparent. Like, if this makes you uncomfortable, please tell me, and it's okay. I will never knock a BCBA for being compliance driven in their practices, especially when that's mostly where the field has been. That is really where we're all trained. That was where I was practicing 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? I was like, all right, we'll deal with the extinction burst, no problem. We got this, right? Like, that's what we're trained to do. Whereas now I'm asking really upfront, how are you professionally with having a child just say, no, I don't want to, or pushing something away? What's your response? And if they're like, compliance, but I don't like it, it makes me uncomfortable, right? That's something I can work with. Once they get past that interview process, where we're really talking heavy about our culture and climate and our systems that we have. Once we're doing onboarding, that's where we train, like, here's ascent withdrawal policies. Here's how we track it internally. This is how you can embed it into systems, right? Even somebody that's still learning more about ascent withdrawal up front, I had it in my mindset that you establish ascent at the beginning of session and you keep it moving from there, when realistically it's per program. Um, I think there's a part here that is really, really important to talk about too, is we do have a clinic and we're opening up our second one in Newark soon, and I'm very excited, but most of our team work in home.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you feel about your home, but my home, is chaos as it is, and because we have toddler life, it is our safe space. It's where we brought our baby home. It's the first steps she crawled up. This space means so much to us. So whoever's coming into this house is somebody that we want to trust. We want mutual respect. So if I'm inviting somebody in and they're making my child cry because they're forcing something compliance specific, this isn't really tailored to the safety of my space anymore. Now this is something that's contrived and a little punishing, and I'm not feeling the authenticity surrounding it. So I don't know how progressive or too progressive that sounds, but we established very early on that you are a guest in these individuals' homes. You want to blend into the culture and climate in their own systems. We want to make sure that we're aware of the dual relationship part, but we want to make sure that we're not pairing this space with something punishing, because that's where they lay their head every night. That is where they do all of the things, right? So we want to make it, yes, it's your office, but it's also their home, their safe space. And we work predominantly, I would say, I think we did the numbers, we have 83% of our cases are Medicaid funded. We have a huge initiative to provide services via Medicaid. And with that comes needing to make sure you're looking at who you're about to work with. We have a lot of families that have never allowed an outside person in their home in regards to therapy, cultural, preconceived notions on what therapy means and how is that a sign of weakness? Is this somebody I can trust in my home? The first time, and that was when we're going back, and because I jump all over about falling on your face and learning the wrong way. I went into somebody's house in Newark dressed in a blazer and fancy pants and my heels and was like, I'm here to help. And they were like, are you from the state? I was like, no, no, you asked me to be here. I'm sorry. Like, and I was embarrassed that I had this impression and this idea in my head of what I should look like professionally,
Yeah.
completely ignoring what the home needed. And that
Yeah.
was somebody that looked safe and presentable and approachable. So again, just looking at those cultural dynamics, I think is so critical when you're working in this field as well. It can't just be about, well, what does the literature say? What does the research say you should do here? You have to look at that culture component.
Yeah. We are getting close to the time we've set aside. I want to the theme I've heard here, if I put a theme to the whole thing, is like being responsive and like you said, responsive to employee needs, responsive to your client needs, and like responsive to family needs. It's really like responsive to the stakeholders.
Exactly.
Um, what I'm interested in now, and a really quick conversation about, is anything we can provide by way of uh like, how do you know if you're being responsive? How do you know if you're not? And then how do you adjust? And you may not have any idea, because you may just be like, I'm just naturally responsive, um, but I am interested in, like, what are some of the signs that you've seen, or if you coach people to be responsive, like, how do you coach that?
I think one of the first things that we've set up is this open, this open door concept, but not just with leadership.
Mhm.
So every single BCB in the company has a direct messaging chat with me
Yeah.
and or our COO and or their direct, clinical director or something like that, where all it is day in is day out is troubleshooting. We don't we don't limit the amount of communication. So when it comes to a responsive nature, we've let them know, if you don't know how to respond to this, just tap somebody in. You don't have to, you shouldn't do this alone. We have such a collaborative field, but why do we feel like we need to take things on independently? So it's
Yeah.
as soon as you're sitting and seeing something that, creates discomfort in your body, just come to somebody immediately. If you don't know the answer, if you don't have the resources, we have even like our crisis care coordinator, he'll go in on the ground and go into anybody's house and troubleshoot with
Yeah.
you. I'll tap into supervision when you need a break. Like it's not a hierarchical approach, I guess is what I'm saying. Like if tomorrow an RBT called out and this case really needed somebody, I would go in the next day. It doesn't matter about the position. It just matters of where you can allocate the resources depending on your role. And for me, being that person, that responsive person on a BT level. Because let's be real, like the company would fall and crumble if we didn't have our behavior technicians and our
Yeah,
RBTs. They
BT
are
behavior
everything.
technicians, they are the front line doing,
Everything.
yep,
Yeah. So if they're not feeling heard, if they're not feeling burnt, if they're feeling burnt out, and we notice a clear pattern with if they go to their BCBA with an idea and the BCBA is like, no, they're so shut down, right? So
yeah,
we keep explaining, like, take the ideas, sit, work with it. Go outside a session. We'll do non-billables for these things, right? Where you sit outside a session and you collaborate and say, "Hey, I know you're the BCBA and I know you know that science part, but I'm seeing this every day. What do you think?" Right? And we shouldn't be afraid to come to our people, right? Like that metaphor
yeah,
should always be accessible. Um, Up into me. Like I will
yeah.
troubleshoot with anybody. There's to me, there's no hierarchy. Um, I just I think everybody just has different resources and different roles. That's it. So I know that's a roundabout way of saying like
Well, here's what I can
be a
hear
good
is one,
person, like be supportive, be an
yeah,
ear.
but no, I hear a couple things I think you can take away. One is to actually model being responsive. Um,
Absolutely.
and if you're getting signs that you're not, like people are burning out around you, people aren't bringing you things, right? Like this is something I hear people like, well, why didn't they take it to me? Well, that's a really good question.
Didn't they?
And
I
a
know.
question worth asking, like, well, how did I contribute to that?
Absolutely.
Right. Um, so there's modeling being responsive by actually honoring practices like I welcome communication and I create pathways to communicate. The other thing I'm hearing is having it be part of the ongoing conversation so that it's not just me showing you how to, but like, hey, be responsive. This is what it looks like. This is how you could do it.
Absolutely.
And so having it be not just part of the like what people are doing, but also just how people are talking.
And pulling like really pushing really into the ABA component is taking the data. So
Mhm.
something more tangible, we do quarterly evaluations, which are not easy because every 4 months you need to do this big process and assess, and every single person in the company gets it, no matter the role. And what we do with these results is we don't sit and you think like quarterly evaluation, oh, I'm going to get fired. We've never fired one person over a quarterly evaluation result. What we do is we take it, we analyze the data, and anybody that's performed under a certain threshold, we provide extra support and training to. Or if we see a common theme across the company that everybody is struggling with, let's say, treatment integrity data collection. We're
Yeah.
leaning in and we're providing the training on how do you integrate this into your current agenda for supervision? How do you ensure that this is something that's so fluid within your practice that you're not thinking of it as another task? This is just what you do.
Yeah.
So looking at your team's data, right, of the actual employee data, and then when you're looking at the systems like your client-based systems, we track every single norm and criterion referenced assessment for every single learner in the entire company, and we analyze those results twice a year and see, well, where is the growth? And if they're not, if we have a couple, if we have a majority of kiddos not thriving in this particular area, well, why? Where is there an issue with our programming in this area? Do we not have enough tools, resources? So it's yes, it's so much of like receiving the information, that the anecdotal information, right, of what we're hearing from like, the ground and up, but it's looking at the data and making sure that you as that chief clinical officer or somebody in charge is you're creating enough systems to gather that data in a meaningful way and then using it. Don't just let it go empty. Like take the data and actually use it in a way that people see the change because people buy in. Um, Dr. Gavoni once told me that people come for maybe the money, but they stay for the culture. And
Hmm.
that weighed on me so heavily, and made me really reevaluate our culture and making sure we are clear to it and still giving people a reason to want to stay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, two other quick questions. One, what are you proud of? And you can say anything.
I I am I'm the most proud of this team. Man, they are just they're rock stars. They like what they've created. I can't say I created it because I'm just the person that's like, oh yeah, sure, go do this, try this, but they take the things and they run with them and they create new ideas and new opportunities. And we have parents crying to us saying, my baby talks because of you and said I love you the other day. And like that, that's the reason we keep doing this. Like I am impressed, I'm humbled, I'm blown away by the Rainbow ABA employees. Like our team is unbelievable. What they've endured, what they troubleshoot, how they look at like these clients are they're not client. Like they hold such a special place in all of our hearts. And it's amazing what this team has done. They inspire me every single day. And they created Rainbow. They created this. Then that like we sat and we made sure that, the handbooks were written and everybody was following the things that are expected, but they created this masterpiece. And it really is. I love what we built. I'm so proud of it. Yeah.
And thank you. And my final question is, if
Yeah,
people would like to reach you, how can they do that?
absolutely. The easiest is my email, Gabrielle at rainbowtherapy.org. That
Awesome.
I never stop reading it, unfortunately. But one of my favorite things is collaborating. So if anybody wants to just sit and talk over a cup of coffee, I would absolutely love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Gabrielle Centra Taylor, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I have so enjoyed the conversation, and I know our listeners appreciate it. So thank you.
I really appreciate you having me and just letting me just gloat about this amazing team that we have, and just the work that they've done. It means everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For those of you watching and listening, thank you for watching and listening. As always, give us a 5-star review, hit the like button, share, etc. Press all of them, and then stick around, and we will see you back here at the next episode of The Flex.
Appreciate it.